This is the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80, and many watch lovers call it one of the best Swiss watches one can get for below $1,000. But how well finished is this watch really? And what do you get for your money? How does it wear? And is it truly an everyday watch? Is it worth buying at the end? Or would you be better off with saving the money for a more expensive watch? I'll be answering all of these and many more questions in today's video, and also share with you the two main things you should be aware of before buying one. So let's get started. The thing about many watches in that price category is that you could either be getting the worst or the best in terms of quality for its price. So the real question here is, do I get my money's worth when buying this watch? To answer that, I think it's best that we take a closer look at it. The Gentleman is made from stainless steel, is partially brushed at the lugs or sides of the case, but polished at the edges or bezel, for example. It measures 40 millimeters in diameter with a thickness of 11.5 millimeter and a lug to lug of 48 millimeter. Given the measurements, it's definitely a larger watch, but given the lug to lug of 48 millimeter and the relatively flat case, you could still get away with it in case you have smaller wrists, as it wears quite comfortably. The wide and polished bezel also contributes to the slightly chunkier look and adds to the perceived largeness, if that's even a word, of the watch. A nice contrast to the thicker bezel are the finely polished edges that cut through the brushed sides of the case. It's something that immediately makes the Tissot look much more high-end. Attached is a 3-link bracelet with polished middle links that closes in a double folding clasp. The logo engraving at the clasp looks really nice, and pressing down on the pushers works with no problem at all. Unfortunately, there's no form of quick adjustment, which would have been nice, and you could definitely feel that the links aren't always as smooth as they might look. And arguably one of the most important parts on a watch is the face, and here's where it gets really cool, I think, as the level of finishing really did surprise me. What you get is a very nice and smooth sunburst with sharp and easily legible lettering. The sword-styled hands give the face much more dimension that elevates the entire look, I think. Another highlight are the hour markers. Some might expect, simple basic styled markers, but they are very detailed, and the shape kind of reminds me a lot of the Grand Seiko watches that I had for a video a couple of weeks ago. What's also really cool is the silver framed date window, another detail that sets this watch apart from many others in that price range. Putting any watch under a macro or ultra macro lens is a tough test, and I've seen much more expensive watches look just as good up close as this one. There are obviously some trade-offs given the price, but overall it's safe to say that this Gentleman punches way above its weight when it comes to its level of finishing. Right, so now that we have answered that question, it's time to check whether or not this really makes for a great everyday watch in real life when putting it on. Though it's a larger watch, it wears quite comfortably due to its flat case. The bracelet feels smooth around your wrist, and the clasp is easy to operate when you want to put it on or take it off again. That being said, I would argue that smaller wrists might be having a harder time pulling this one off given the overall dimensions of the watch, but that comes down to personal preference. I think one of the Gentleman's biggest strong points is how well it can adapt to different situations. The simple dial layout sprinkled with design features we know from dressier watches, combined with the larger case, flattened bezel, and the striking 3-link bracelet, makes this one easily wearable as a casual or dress watch. To me, it's sort of comparable to an Omega Aquaterra, for example, given its proportions and the overall design and feel. What is also a huge plus are the 100-meter water resistance you get with it, so it's not one of those fancier looking watches that you have to baby, but one you can truly enjoy in any situation. I mean, I did recommend the Gentleman Powermatic to my cousin for his wedding last summer, and it looked incredible with his suit. But what's even better is that he still wears this watch on a day-to-day basis, and it still looks just as great with a jeans and a t-shirt. Which brings me to a very special treat I have arranged for all of you out here interested in this watch. As some of you might know, Teddy here on YouTube offers all kinds of watches on his website, including Tissot. So I asked him for a special offer for my viewers, so I am happy to share with you my code Jenni_Tissot, with which you can get any strap for free off of his website if you buy any Tissot Gentleman Powermatic. I will link everything for you in the description box below, so you can check it out if you want to. okay, now that we know what it looks like and how it wears, we can have a go at the sometimes dreaded question, is it worth buying? And let me put it that way, yes and no, and here's why. For many, and especially when it comes to Swiss watches, it is really important to know what type of caliber is used and how it performs. Inside, this gentleman beats a modified ETA 2824, so here are the two main takeaways for you. Firstly, this ETA was slowed down from a 4 to a 3 Hz frequency, which allows for a power reserve of 80 hours, which means you can take it down on a Friday and it will still be good to go on Monday. Secondly, Tissot switched to a silicone hairspring to improve the overall anti-magnetism of the watch, which in turn will help keeping it accurate despite being exposed to magnetic fields coming off of speakers, for example. So ETA movements are robust, reliable, and easily serviced. You also get an exhibition case back, so that's nice too. Given that you like the outsides, which are objectively really great looking, are okay with the larger size, are happy with the robust movement that isn't as highly decorated as an Alago and Söhne movement, and look for a great watch below $1,000, you will definitely get your money's worth with a Tissot Gentleman. But in case you are actually in the midst of saving up for a more expensive watch and run out of patience or looking for a substitute buy, I would definitely recommend pausing here for a second. Though it is definitely a great watch and well worth its money, there's still some potential for improvement, and I think you would be disappointed if you projected your expectations for, let's say, an Aquaterra from Omega, for example, onto this Tissot because you gave in and impulse bought it. But either way, let me share with you my two main takeaways with this watch, what I think you should be aware of before buying it. As a proud member of the Itty Bitty Wrist Committee, I'm always on the lookout for watches that work on smaller wrists, and though the 40mm in diameter are still somewhat wearable for most, it's first polished middling that connects directly to the case that is causing a bit of a problem. It is slightly longer than the lugs, which adds to the lengthy look of the watch. That makes it a bit difficult to pull off for smaller wrists, so I would definitely switch it out for a strap. Which leads me to the next inconvenience. The lug width is 21mm, which is right in between the two very common sizes, 20 and 22mm for straps, so you have to make sure to select the correct one if you want to put a strap on it. But Teddy mentioned in one of his videos that he made a 22mm strap work, so I guess there is some scope to play around with. And so that was my review of the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80. What do you think about this watch? If you own it, do you wear it more casually or dressy? As always, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video today. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!